NS7 add-ons will stop being sold. Obviously, we had to change from what was the blade-based infrastructure into now a rack mount infrastructure because HPE stopped making the blade system. So we've had to transition the product line. That's been really successful, but it means that the components we have, we stopped selling new NS7 systems and NS3s last year, and we'll only have add-ons for those systems potentially through to end of October is the official end of sales. So if anyone does have a future capacity requirement on their NSX platforms, which are 3s and 7s, do have that conversation now, because once they've gone, once end of sale has happened, if we've still got some on the shelf in the factory, we will sell them obviously, but once they're gone, and it's literally that the format has gone. So we want to work with people to make sure that they're aware of that date and that any requirement is planned in. So those will go that, and we've also done a lot of work, work has been done over the last 12 to 18 months about how easy it is to deploy a virtual non-stop. And those functions, what Jeff used to call easy button, those are being rolled out at the moment, so we're starting to see improvements of that. So in essence, I have this. So I'll play, for anyone who hasn't seen NS8, obviously NS4 is a small one. So I want to put up just the latest things. I have to thank Mark Collins from Corporate for getting this, because what he did was, instead of using some marketing budget that was meant to take some static photos of some racks, he actually got them to do it digitally, and then so the official photos are actually images from that video rather than doing it the other way around. If any customers want to use this, this is actually on YouTube, but anyone who wants a copy, we can get a copy of this. It's used for your own presentations. But kind of thing that brings it to life. So where we are at the moment is obviously NS7, NS3, end of life after the third generation of the product. So actually, if we look at it, it's been around 7 years. So we're on to the fourth generation of the NS4 and the NS8. We still have the NS2, and interestingly, we've sold more NS2s more recently, and they're kind of filling that gap where the NS1000 used to be. So we've seen them in a number of places, development systems, but we are seeing them rolled into smaller production environments as well. It's a very capable box. That's the virtual converged box, where we're using, we're not using VMware, but we're using the virtualization through KVM. So it's built in the box virtualized, but it's a smaller footprint and a lower price point. So particularly for sort of edge environments, test environments, we're seeing a number of people take these. And we've got the virtualized non-stop. And so there's a number of things which are kind of coming. We see NS8, NS4. At the moment, we haven't got an official date when the next one will come. I anticipate that's at least a good 12 months off. So we see NS8, NS4 continuing at the moment perfectly okay. It's proving a very good platform, and we're seeing some great deployments from that. The next thing that's going to be one of the things that they're working on is around the virtualized non-stop. And so we haven't got the official slides for this yet, they're sort of coming. And Teresa did present this to, I think she did these things are starting to happen now, which is they're investigating, that they realise with the virtualised non-stop that the VMware deployment and the use of Rocky is actually the thing that is giving people a challenge in the way that they could implement it. It's non-standard for a cloud deployment, if you like, or a virtualised deployment. And so a number of customers have come to us and said, well, can we run this on an AWS stack? Can we run this on a Google stack? Can we run this on Azure, for example? And so investigating this, so they're now doing a piece of work which is to effectively abstract what they need out of Rocky into software, and in essence will make the virtualized platform, if you like, stack agnostic. So what that will mean is in future we should be able to deploy virtualized into much more different scenarios and be less specific on the hardware design that has to be implemented. And so there's a lot of work going on. Now, at the same time of that, there'll be in a session, I've got something on HPE GreenLake in the future, but the next generation of HPE GreenLake is what they're trying to position is more of a cloud experience. And interesting, the language we're getting talked about is kind of, everyone's has been using it. It's cloud, it's on premise, or it's, and they actually sort of said, you know, we're redefining the way that we talk about this, and the fact that the hyperscalers are actually a multi-tenant cloud, and there are a number of providers out there, HPE GreenLake is one of them, but also you look at people like Oracle and IBM, who are single-tenant cloud. And it's not even a case of, is the cloud, you know, in the cloud, or is the cloud on premise? And what the conversation is moving towards is actually the cloud is an experience, it's the way that you operate and consume, it's not a physical location. And so along with this, HPE is developing something called the HPE GreenLake Cloud Platform, and that will be a way of consuming compute, storage, technology for deployment of, you know, whatever it is, the application payloads you want. And so, you know, what I can see is these two streams coming together where, as well as having the converged platform, which isn't going to go away, you know, we will still always offer you an physical implementation, because we know there are many customers who don't, who want the fact that their non-stop is away and segmented from the rest of, you know, what their IT organisations will touch. But there's also this idea that you can start to see, which is a virtualised non-stop being deployed on HPE GreenLake Cloud Platform is kind of a thing that will spread. So the idea is then that we have far more flexibility about how you consume. So there is a lot of work that's being done along the virtualised non-stop that will make it a more flexible deployment. That won't also benefit just HPE Cloud Platform. It will help anywhere, because it would give you the option of deploying it on pretty much any technology. Do we see it being put into, after I said multi-tenant cloud? There are still some concerns about that, and in fact we've been doing a number of tests with customers, even sending data from non-stop into public cloud, and we've noticed hitting things like performance issues, particularly throughput and connectivity issues, and how you get that transaction rate through. So you know, we still see probably at the moment that it's more likely to be a hybrid cloud than a true, you know, hyperscaler environment, but in theory, you know, the future is, you know, you can deploy non-stop where you want. Kind of is where we're going. But there's obviously a number of steps that we've got to do to get there. But the other thing that we've been doing is also, obviously based on the work that Karen Copeland had done, unfortunately, who passed away. I don't know if everyone heard this message, but Karen, the head of product management in the US, sadly passed away. But she'd driven a program that was also bringing partners on board and allowing partners to sell with HPE. So, and we have increasing the number of partner products that we have on our price books. From our perspective, it's great because it fills some of the gaps that HPE had in its product portfolio. And it also allows us, these partners, to access, so first call is through HPE, it's the same contract, and it's the same licensing scheme. Of course, that doesn't preclude working with the other partners, and we're not trying to say this is, you know, everyone should buy things through us. We still want a vibrant and vibrant partner ecosystem, but for me, this is about filling out the solution that we can offer rather than simply let's put all the partner products on the price book. So it's actually filling the gap. And what is great to see, and talking with some of the partners who are here today, is, you know, there's kind of, there feels like there's another shift that's happening between the, rather than let's all compete with each other, it's actually let's try and find the gaps in the things that we aren't doing, and then these things will be complementary. So it's good to see, but these products are now all available through us now, and there are future ones coming. Before I go on and say kind of, you know, I know I normally do the how the business going, I've pushed that to the end. I just want to give an update on the team. And the reason for doing this is, first of all, I said about getting out and about. So I think this is really important, and as I said, already this year, so with 2 months started work, we did the Dutch user group, so we had about 40 people in the continuous building, for people know for education, in Lelystad, so we had a great number of users doing presentations. In fact, there was a really interesting presentation in there from ING, and actually we should try and get that forwarded to Bytug, actually. I don't know if you've seen that, but they did a really great position. So ING have got, you know, on the thought leadership of how you do things and how standard things could become, ING are at like the extreme end. So, you know, they're moving on a position which is the people who use the system shouldn't actually touch or directly do anything. It all has to be automated, it all has to be deployed electronically. And they're using Azure DevOps to deploy all their non-stop implementations, including operating system stuff, application stuff. So everything is put into a package, everything is put into Azure DevOps, and is implemented through that. And they did a live demo, which I can't say did a lot to me, it just seems a lot of scripts. But anyway, but they showed the way that they do this, and there's no special tooling. So this is another thing that was an interesting point is, we often get the non-stop is different, it's not the same, we can't do it the same as everyone else. They're doing the same deployment model for non-stop as for everything else in ING, using Azure DevOps as the technique for doing this. And there was no tooling that they needed that was special to non-stop to make all this happen. So actually, is this something we should, is Ian around? He's downstairs, okay. Graham, can you make a note? We should try and get that presentation shared, because it's actually an interesting perspective on a different way of thinking about how we can use and operate. You know, their aim is that their people should not be directly logging on to anything because it gives them a security issue. You know, everything should be put in a package, it should be checked, and then should be automated deployment. So you don't have people logging on and being security risks or causing errors through the fact that they've done a typo or anything. So that was really interesting. We met with 4 customers in the Netherlands and Belgium. I've been up to our Manchester office, which is a brand new office for us, which is really good. I was sent to a management meeting in Madrid, and the other one is I went a couple of weeks ago to Finland, and it was really great. We had a whole bunch. Nordea had flown people in from Sweden and Denmark. They're a big operation. But we did the 40-year celebration of Nordea running on non-stop. So you know, that was absolutely fabulous. And in fact, they actually got some articles that were from their original magazine in sort of 1982 about how this was implemented. And again, this code, I was talking to Yogesh. You know, Barclays has got another 4 years on there. So as the longest not European customer, Barclays is slightly older at 44, but you know, I actually sort of started to think, are we going to be starting talking about customers who've been running their applications for 50 years? You know, this, you know, without change, this is kind of unfathomable in this you know, era of fast IT and everything changes all the time.
Isn't that diamond jubilee?
Yeah, yeah, well, yeah, absolutely, it's bizarre, but we did a great one. And in fact, Jan, who is the TC in Finland, was at the session. And he was one of the original team working for the then distributor in Finland. And so he not only was he involved then, but he's been involved throughout with Nordea for 40 years. So actually he's due to retire, I think, next year. But it was great. But we had a whole team, and we went through a lot of this presentation actually with them. But we had all their senior management, and we did a celebration. So it's great. If anyone's got any significant dates coming up for their applications and stuff, let us know. It was a fantastic event to go to. But one of the things that I'm critically aware of is the average age of the non-stoppers out there. And so one of the things I just wanted to bring up, which is that I'm trying to do, is I'm trying to bring a refresh in. And I see this throughout HPE, that particularly within the specialty communities, and if I take that, you know, like non-stop, like HPC, rather than the general communities, there has always been a tendency to recruit, you know, experienced, older people who knew what they were doing. Yes, as Richard said, have got beards. I'm not going to say anything. No. And so, you know, I viewed, and there's always this gamble, and as people are starting to retire, and I have got people who are starting to retire now, and it's very sad to lose because, you know, we've all, you know, along with you and with the customers, we've all worked together for so long. It's actually like losing part of the family when people decide to leave. So I went back and thought, you know, well, how are we going to start doing this? Because there aren't that many people who know non-stop that we can just go and recruit. So you've either got cross-training. And then I sat there and thought, well, I started this. I was an intern in Tandem, and then I rejoined and I worked my way through from pre-sales. So I was able to do it. So why don't we try and continue to do this? So that's what we've started to do. So I started to refresh the team, and I've got a lot of support to do that. So I've got some people in the room here today. So Vlastimir, go on, stand up. So Vlastimir joined. In fact, this is one of the things. We did this management meeting in Spain. So Vlastimir joined in 2020. And it's the first time I'd actually met him. It was in 2022 because again we haven't been able to travel. So Vlastimir helps me. He's my sales manager. He runs half the team. And so he's joined. He came from a software, software background. So it's not a traditional HPE person. I've got young people in Vanessa and Alexei who are helping me with the acquisition program, working with Vlastimir. That's good. I've got a guy Gino in Romania who's part of pre-sales. And Shauna, you can stand up now. No, you can stand up now. No, I'm good. Sorry, we've got to stop doing that. I've got to stop doing the short thing. But Shauna was a previous intern, so not current intern, not the one before, but the one before that. She finished her degree, and I'm great to say that she's joined us back. So she's working with Paul in the UK, so I know many of the UK customers will have seen her already. But she's working as a sales lead for me as well. So it's great to do that. But I've got a couple of people who are leaving, so I've lost someone, you know, and it shows that people are leaving with 35 years of service, you know, and so we know that people come and don't often leave. You know, we are a family. But with the aim, I've got some other new people. So Dugu, you can stand up now. So Dugu has joined us on the 1st of June. She will be looking after Germany with Klaus, who is one of my experienced sales guys. She comes from another area of HPE sales. And in Belgium, I've also recruited an engineer called Jeroen, and he will be joining us on the 1st of July. So it's great to see new talent. The interesting one about Jeroen, his father used to be the non-stop sales specialist in Belgium. So if anyone ever remembers Etienne Goossens from any events, Etienne was his dad. Unfortunately, he passed away recently. But it's great, again, you know, he's worked on Proximus and Euroclear for some time. So he knows us, and it's about bringing people in who know, you know, who can learn, who can know, can support, but will understand the culture of what we all jointly work together. So what I thought we'd do, and to put him on the spot, is also to get you a view from Ben, who's there. I'll need the clicker. So Ben is my current intern. So we've taken interns, or I've taken interns throughout my career in HPE, and obviously Shauna is a success because we brought her back. The previous person to Shauna also works for HPE, and the person after Shauna is actually also joining HPE. So, you know, it's a great way of bringing people. I do encourage people to think, can you use interns, can you get things within your companies and bring more people into the community and seed them from the bottom up, because it is a great one. But Ben, I thought I'd give you a few minutes.
I won't take up too long. So a bit about me. So I'm an intern, so I'm a sales analyst working for Neil. Taken a year out of university to come and join the non-stop community. So going back in September, I'll go back and study international business, and then I'll join the real world after that. And as Neil said, I've been at HPE just under a year, coming to the end of July. So I thought I'd just quickly talk about what I do as the non-stop intern. So, a lot of forecasting, a lot of planning, work with Neil, helping with logistics and order management. So when you send the sales guys a message and ask, where's my system? They come to me and say, well, where is it? And we get them back that answer. And then a bit of miscellaneous stuff, which I'll get onto in a second. So instead of delving down on that in a bit more detail, I'll be quiet. I thought I'd explain why it's beneficial to come into a company in a community like this, instead of just explaining what forecasting is, what planning is. I'm sure you all know what that is. So, as a young person, I'm 20, so I'm definitely the youngest one in the room. It's given me not much, only slightly. You're all 21 at heart. So it's given me a much greater business understanding. I think who's been at university? Show of hands. Would you all agree it's very sort of concept-based, not a real work? Yeah. So it's taken a lot of the stuff we've done at university and given it a sort of a real-world application. If you ask any of the UK team when I joined, I'm not sure how I did it, I had 0 Excel skills. So data management skills was nothing. I'm not quite sure how I landed this gig, but we're here and we're still doing it. So I've definitely widened that. Can go on, from using a sum to many other ones I'm not going to mention. And then, general communication, again, poor networking. And I think, a couple of you I spoke to last night and you were really welcoming, so that was, I appreciate that. Again, logistics and order management, I think as I just mentioned, it's all real world stuff. And we'll get onto a bit more order management in a second. But it is, bringing all those different arms together, giving a bit more communication between everyone. And again, it's real world stuff that university can't necessarily teach. So when you send Paul, Shauna an email.
To be able to read this, by the way, it's just
a little bit small. So when you send them an email and you turn around to them and say, where is my system? So I've obviously blurred out who's doing what, but we'll take these one to Paul. So when you turn around first, when we're building your system, if you purchased one recently, we get this basic information if this works. No, okay. So we get your order numbers, your system numbers. We do keep a track of all those. And then we'll get the manufacturing date. So the one you first want, the number is, when your system's being built in Singapore before we ship it across. So the normal journey of a system is Singapore all the way to Prague, Prague to your country, country through customs, customs to you. So it can take averagely 4 to 6 weeks. So something to bear in mind to get your system. So if you are very patient, we do appreciate it. It does take a little while. So from manufacturing, it will get flown into Frankfurt. From Frankfurt, it will then go to Prague. Once it's in Prague, we'll have a better date of when it will get to you, and that's normally when the logistics guy come in and say, do you want a pre-site survey beforehand? And we make sure you've got your power set up, your cable, your networking set up, that sort of stuff. And then the date you will want to know about the delivery date, when you're going to get your nice new brand new shiny systems. So for some lucky customer, it's the 13th of June, they're going to get their new ones. And then from there, we hand that over to Point Next, and they do your initial setups. So beyond the normal sort of forecasting, planning, and your logistics stuff, what have I got up to this year? So helping Graham with his install base, so keeping you guys happy, keeping you up to date, what your licenses are. Updating in-house processes to meet the current business needs. So before I joined, which is not fact, this wasn't what it was now. It very much didn't have as much information in it. So we've drawn it up to what we need now, so we can track and keep all of you happy. This year I've gone back to university twice and given talks to current second year students about my placement time, searching for placements and the opportunities and roles at HPE. So if you have a young person in your team, I would really sort of push them to go and do these sorts of things, go to university, just reach out to them, say, oh, can I have 20 minutes of your time in a lecture? The universities absolutely love it. And you can just push the career opportunities you have in your team. And then also filling in for Neil and Vladimir at meetings and stuff that I've done with other worldwide management when they're on a holiday. And I'm in a lucky position where I know what's going on in enough capacity to be able to jump in and do that. So I thought I'd do a little bit of a summary bit, a very short part. So I've worked in non-stop for 339 days. I can't tell you the actual numbers as much as I did try to. But orders, you lot have been great this year. Ordering great, numbers greater than our order budget for H2 for last year and H1 this year. And I've helped the team do 269 unique deals. So for me, starting out my career, it's amazing to be able to get involved in this, and I really would push you, if you have the space in your team, as Neil said, it's an ageing community, we want to bring the young blood in, so if you have the opportunity to invest in an intern and train them up, I would definitely do so.
Cool. Thank you, Ben. Well done. So what Ben's really done, is great, is he's found out, because what the thing in complexity is when we're dealing stuff, we're going through multiple systems, and we have the legacy non-stop environment, and we also have our regular HPE environment for SAP and stuff. So we're bridging multiple things. So Ben really helps bring it all together. So when customer goes, when am I going to get something, we can go to Ben now rather than having to sift around in all this stuff. So he's doing a really good job, and he's really expanded the role. I'll quickly run through these. Some of this stuff I've used in a similar format before, but just to say, 21 was a great year. 22 is going really well as well, so it's a very buoyant market out there, so thank you. Do make the note about supply chain. It is challenging out there at the moment, both from a cost pressure, so we are having to adjust prices on certain components, particularly things like SSDs have gone up again, and also about supply chain. The lockdown in China recently has caused huge issues. I was told by someone, it's like, if you want to buy a Cisco switch tomorrow, you're talking next year. Okay, so, it's not within just HPE, it's within everywhere. Non-stop, I think, gets a better share of our supply chain than other ones. Because we've got really good planning, and we've got really foresight of what you are doing. But what I'm just saying is, don't come to us with a shock request, because we might not be able to instantly turn it around. The longer knowledge you've got of you need something, the better it is, because the supply chain situation out there is at the moment getting worse rather than better. We expect it to get better, and we're also doing some stuff internally within the organisation to ensure that non-stop is kind of protected, but it's a difficult market out there, and particularly when the customers with big drops of equipment for things like HPC, getting those dates is really a challenge. We covered most of this before. Obviously, we're all NS8 now. I do want to cut out a couple of interesting bits here, though. We are continuing to grow the customer base, and this is really important. And so we've had 3 new wins this year, which I can call out. So the first one was we had a current customer, a current manufacturing customer, a different division, which is a separate legal entity, for the first time have taken the same application as the other area of the company. And so that is a new deployment, new workload for non-stop, which is fantastic to hear. And it was in a division that had never used non-stop before. So we won them. We also won through a financial services processing company that we deal with, a new footprint. So there was a customer in Germany. They had an old application that sat in a corner of a box, and they used it. They've redeveloped a brand new application on non-stop from scratch themselves, and the financial services processor, they've deployed that onto a brand new footprint. So from now, they're not running on the shared platform anymore. They have their own unique footprint for this application within the German financial services market. So that was a fantastic win, both for us as our customer, but also because, again, it's a commitment to the platform. And then the other new win that I want to really count out is actually we won a new piece of new business in Saudi Arabia. And this was actually a customer who was, they were I can never remember if it was S1 or S2, but they were an Open2 platform. And ACI, who had bought Open2 many years ago, had convinced them to upgrade to EPS, Base 24 EPS. We inserted ourselves into that, not sure to ACI's pleasure. But we really went and had the conversation with the customer, and we pointed out, so ACI was obviously agnostic, but telling them to go on Linux. And the interesting bit was here, we went and talked to the customer. The customer was not an HPE customer. They didn't buy anything from us. They didn't like the idea of non-stop because they didn't do non-stop. They'd never touched it, it's going to be scary. But we talked them through the process, and we said, actually, all the biggest customers that are running ACI Base 24 are running it on non-stop. Your risk is ACI on Linux, not ACI on non-stop, because we're the proven platform, and we know that we can deliver to your timescale. And the customer, listened to us and actually took the decision, and they've placed their systems are being delivered this week, I think, actually, aren't they, Ben? So, yeah, brand new platform with ACI, which is not that usual these days. But again, it shows the power of what we do, and actually that we actually were viewed as the lower risk option than Linux, because it was just unknown. And it actually shows that ACI still can't put up a good deal of evidence to say that running ACI on Linux is actually a good idea. You know, it's great to see new footprint being deployed with new customers, and particularly in a customer that didn't buy anything from HPE. Couple of things just to pull out about HPE GreenLake. Obviously, we've talked about this before, that we are deploying more and more stuff through a sort of services-based model rather than a procurement purchase model. We've seen that accelerate. The largest deal that we've had this year in EMEA is a GreenLake deal, so that, you know, it's interesting. We're seeing very little interest in leasing now. It's going through the consumption route. And actually, the one that I want to pull out, we've got the first one here, which is we've done the first, if you like, non-stop as a service. So there is a customer in the UK and who basically came to us and said, we're moving away. We don't want our own data centers. We want to run everything in Amazon. And we said, well, we don't run in Amazon. And so what HPE GreenLake have done, we've put it together. And so they have a data center, which is actually Equinix, a non-stop environment with HPE managing it up to application level, and they're just going to pay for it on a consumption-based model. So if we're in those scenarios where management is perhaps going, I want a cloud model, I don't want to have my own machines, we can do that, and we've got the first one deployed out. And it's a managed environment, so it's cloud-like. They're paying as a consumption-based model as they go, and the whole thing, including the hosting, is included within it. So we can put things together and do that, and it is very successful. So we can see more customers. Most customers don't want to do that step, but there is increasingly a number of customers who are saying, I don't want to be in the data center business. I don't want to own data centers. I just want to have equipment provided for me. So what's the difference between having it, us giving it to you versus Amazon? Indeed, we were talking to one customer, I got some feedback from one customer. They've switched to a model with Google, not for non-stop. And what was interesting, they were used to, you know, you paid for a budget, you spent some money, you got, you know, and everything was known. They're now getting it through Google, and the amount they're getting charged each month is way higher than they anticipated. So their budgets for everything else are being zapped because the benefits of running in Google are absorbing all the money in the IT budget. So while it might seem a good idea, it's not necessarily more predictable. And I guess that's what Google's model, you know, all these hyperscalers, you consume more and more, and it's more expensive. So what I would say is the key message here, and I haven't got time to do all the slides on some of the different models, but we can build you flexibility into a GreenLake model. So if you want that kind of cloud experience, you want something a bit different, we are having some models and we're developing models to do this. They're not necessarily as good as they need to be for what your requirements are. So my message is, if you want to have a conversation about how you could do this differently, come and have a conversation and we'll try and make the model fit to you, rather than saying this is the model off the shelf and this is the only option that you've got. And we're doing that in a number of cases. One case we've been really successful with, which is Worldline. And I only put this one up because it's very rare that you get a non-stop article in the Financial Times. So I like to put the picture of the Financial Times up. But that web link still does work. But it was actually FT reposted it off someone else. But again, it's a good article if you need stuff to support non-stop within HPE. Within your customer base, you know, this is a great message saying how they've selected them as HPE non-stop as their cloud environment for payments. And so, you know, really successful, but it uses HPE GreenLake as the financing model. What was really unusual with here, they've got real benefits to their bottom line in the way they measure for their shareholders. And the way that we can use the GreenLake model to change the payment model meant that they were able to take all that cost out of operating margin. And most of the HPE GreenLake finance people don't understand this, but the customer and working with the team, you know, great model where you go, okay, well, we can change the way that you measure how you are paying for this, and there are benefits there. And so one of this is a model that we just created for someone recently. And so the idea we had here was, you've got a system. So within your monthly contract, so you're going to pay a fixed monthly fee, what we would do is allow you, effectively using NSDC, 30 days a year burst. So you would pay a fee. If you need extra capacity, it's obviously NS8 based, you can turn it on for up to 30 days a year, and we won't charge you any extra for it. It's within the HPE GreenLake contract. And also what we've done is we've provisioned spare CPUs, which corporate don't like. But what we've done is we've sold the hardware but without the software licenses. And so what we can say is you've got growth capacity that's on the floor. If you need to do it, you can come to us. We do a change request on the contract. We give you the new license key and you can start going. You haven't got to replumb. You haven't got to do the stuff's already there. So it's this type of thing that we can already do now and start giving options to go, okay, we can build you in flexibility. So instead of going, I've got a fixed purchase, that's all I'm getting, what you've got is the ability to have a slightly more flexible approach so that this was done for what a customer called a Black Swan event. So one of those business things that isn't anticipated, well, we can just turn on the extra capacity and turn it off again. So we're working and we're doing that. So if there's a model, we can create it and we can help you. I'll skip through this because they're just other versions. I know we're running out of time. The last thing I want to say is we're continuing to do work with Lucis on the HP GreenLake for payments. And what was really good was, so Vlastimir led last week. We were at the EBA, European Banking Association. So, it was great to see for the first time in ages, we were at a payments conference, actually next to DXC's stand, who actually said they haven't got a payment solution, which was kind of interesting. But we had a stand there and we were on a panel and we were part of that. So, again, about getting non-stop front and centre back into the financial services industry. We've got this, what's the other one coming? MPE we've got coming up, which is the Merchant Payments Ecosystem event that's coming up in July. Middle of July in Berlin. So again, one of the things that we're doing, working with the HP GreenLake team, is getting that idea of, HPE's payments platform, which is non-stop, in front of people. And again, it's based on a consumption. So we're not selling non-stop. What we're selling is a payment solution, which you will buy by transaction level, business transaction level. And so we're trying to get, again, the spread out from our existing customers into different user base. So again, about making the community bigger. And so we had a great load of interest that came up, most people who were surprised, why was HPE at a payments conference? But it's back to where we need to be, where we used to be, rather than perhaps this kind of infrastructure level conversation. So I won't go through this, we've covered some of it before. We're also now looking, as well as doing the payments thing, we're also looking at seeing whether we can do GreenLake for manufacturing, and we're working with ABAP Plus, which if people don't know is the manufacturing software that Daimler uses for all the Mercedes cars. We're also looking at, could we do a similar thing with Air, which is, again, you would buy a manufacturing, a MES platform as a service. So non-stop platform, management, application, paid by usage of the application. So again, it's a different way of getting out there. Back to, we're selling a solution, we're delivering a solution, we're not selling you a hardware platform. So, I think I've covered most things. I'm probably out of time already. Only other advert, which I'm sure other people, which was, thanks for putting this on. Great day, great to see a lot of people in the room. As I say, already done INIG, so we've done the Dutch. There's a German one that's coming up in a real 3D event in Germany later, I think it's September. But the other advert is we're hoping for some more big announcements at TBC this year. So TBC is an in-person event, won't be virtual. It's an in-present one, so we would encourage people to try and get to Birmingham again, so San Francisco, if people can do so. And again, a great shout out. I'm really pleased that eBuyTug is going on again, and it's back in Edinburgh, because that was a great event last time. So again, we'll be looking to get to the European community and get them keyed up for that. So thank you for your time. I'm around. If anyone's got any questions, anyone wants to answer, ask anything, I've got a lot of the team here as well, so grab us. Thank you.
I think it's the Zypro one next.